Tall Tale TV.
The Maddening Science by J.M. Frey. Bullets fired into a crowd. Children screaming. Women crying. Men crying too, not that any of them would admit it. The scent of gunpowder, rotten garbage, stale motor oil, vomit and misery. Police sirens in the distance, coming closer, making me cringe against old memories, making me skulk into the shadows, hunched down in my hoodie, a beaten puppy. This guy isn't a supervillain. He isn't even a villain, really. He's just an idiot, a child with a gun, and a grudge, or maybe a god complex, or a revenge scheme. Who the hell cares what he thought he had? In the end, it amounts to the same. The last place I want to be is in the center of the police's attention again, so I sink back into the fabric, shying from the broad helicopter spotlights that sweep in through the narrow windows of the parking garage. If this had been before, I might have leapt into action with one of my trusty gizmos, or failing that, at least with a witty verbal assault that would have left the moron boy too brain-befuddled to resist when I punched him in the esophagus. But this isn't before. I keep my eyes on the sky instead of the gun. If the brilliant bitch arrives, I want to see. No one else is looking up. It has been a long, long time since one of us has donned sparkling spandex and crusaded out into the night to roust the criminal element from their lairs, or to enact a plot against the establishment, to bite a glove-covered thumb at the man. A long time since one of us has done much more than pretend to not be one of us. The age of superhero petered out surprisingly quickly. The villains learnt our lessons, the heroes became obsolete. A whizzing pop beside my left ear. I duck behind the back wheel of a sleek penis replacement on wheels. The owner will be very upset when he sees the bullet gouges littering the bright red altar to his own virility. I have never been shot before. I've been electrocuted, eye-lasered, punched by someone with the proportional strength of a spotted gecko, and, memorably, tossed into the air by a breath tornado, created by a hero whose Italian lunch my schemes had clearly just interrupted. Being shot seems fairly mundane after all that. A normal, boring death scares me more than any other kind, especially if it's due to a random, pointless, unpredictable accident of time and place intersecting with a stupid poser with a combination to daddy's gun drawer and a key to mommy's liquor cabinet. I had been on the way to the bargain grocery store for soy milk. It doesn't look like I'm going to get any now. Because only the extraordinary die in extraordinary ways. And I am extraordinary no longer. I look skyward. Still no crimson cunt. Someone screams. Someone else cries. I sit back against the wheel and refrain from whistling to pass the time. If I was on the other side of the parking garage, I could access the secret tunnel I built into the lower levels back when the concrete was poured 30 years ago. But the boy and his bullets are between us. I've nothing to do but wait. The boy is using a 9mm Beretta, military issue. So, probably from Daddy's day job in security at the Air Force Base. He has used up 7 bullets. The standard Beretta carries a magazine of 15. 8 remain, unless one had already been prepared in the chamber, which I highly doubt, as no military man would be unintelligent or undisciplined enough to carry about a loaded gun aimed at his own foot. The boy is firing them at an average rate of 1 every 93 seconds, punctuated by unintelligible screaming. And so, by my estimation, I will be pinned by this unfriendly fire for another 744 seconds, or 12.4 minutes. However, the constabulary generally arrive on the scene between 6 and 23 minutes after an emergency call. As this garage is 5.5 blocks from the second precinct, I estimate the stupid boy has another 8.7 minutes left to live before a SWAT team puts cold lead between his ribs. Better him than me. Except probability states that he will kill another 3 bystanders before that time. I scrunch down further, determined not to be a statistic today. This brings me directly into eyeline with the corpse. There is blood around her left shoulder. If she didn't die of shock upon impact, then surely she died of blood loss. Her green eyes are wide and wet. I wonder who she used to be. I wonder if she is leaving behind anyone who will weep and rail and attend the police inquest and accuse the system of being too slow, too corrupt, too overburdened. I wonder if they will blame the boy's parents or his teachers. Will they only blame themselves or her? And then, miraculously, she blinks. Well, that certainly is a surprise. Perhaps the trauma is not as extensive as I estimated. To be fair, I cannot see most of her. She has fallen awkwardly, the momentum of her tumble half concealing her under the chassis of the ludicrously large Hummer beside my penis car. I am so fascinated by the staggering of her torso as she tries to suck in a breath, the staccato rhythm of her blinks, the bloody slick of the teeth behind her lips, that it's all over before I'm aware of it. This must be what people mean by time flying. I'm not certain I've ever felt that strange loss of seconds ever before. I am very used to being able to track everything. It's disconcerting. I don't like it. And yet, the boy is downed. The police are here. Paramedics crawling over the dead and dying like swarming ants. I wait for them to find my prize, to pull her free of the SUV's shadow and whisk her away to die under ghastly fluorescent lights, too pumped full of morphine to know she is slipping away. I wait in the shadow of the wheel and hope that they miss me. They do. Only, in missing me, they miss her as well. She is blinking, gritty and desperate. And now the police are leaving, and the paramedics are shunting their human meat into the sterile white cubes. And they have not found her, my fascinating, panting young lady. Oh dear, this is a dilemma. I am reformed. I am no longer a villain. But I am also no hero, and I like my freedom far too much to want to risk it by bringing her to the attention of the officials. What to do? Save her and risk my freedom? Or let her die and walk free but burdened with the knowledge of yet another life that I might have been able to save and didn't? I dither too long. They are gone. Only the media are left, and I certainly don't want them to catch me in their unblinking gray lenses. The woman blinks, sad and slow. She knows that she is dead. It's coming. Her fingers twitch towards me, reaching. A responsible, honest citizen would not let her die. So I slink out of my shadow and gather her up, the butterfly struggle of her pulse in her throat against my arm, and slip away through my secret tunnel I steal her away to save her life. It occurs to me, when I lean back and away from the operating table, my hands splashed with gore, that I've kidnapped this woman. She has seen my face. Others will see the neat way I've made my nanobots stitch the flesh and bone of her shoulder back together. They will recognize the traces of the serum that I've infused her with in order to speed up her healing, because I once replaced the totality of my blood with the same to keep myself disease-free, young-looking, and essentially indestructible. The forensics agents will know this handiwork for mine, and then they will know that at least one of my medical laboratories escaped their detection and their torches. They will fear that. No matter that I gave my word to that frowning judge that I had been reformed. No matter that the prison therapist holds papers signed to that effect. No matter that I've personally endeavored to become and remain honest, forthright, and supportive. One look at my lair will remind them of what I used to be, what they fear I might still be, and that will be enough. That will be the end. I will go back to the human zoo, and I cannot have that. I've worked too hard to be forgotten to allow them to remember. I take off the bloody gloves and apron and put them in my incinerator, where they join my clothing from earlier tonight. I take a shower and dress. Jeans, a t-shirt, another nondescript wash-grade hoodie, the uniform of the youth I appear to number among. Then I sit in a dusty plush chair beside the cot in the recovery room, and I wait for her to awake. The only choice that seems left to me is the very one I had been trying to avoid from the start of this whole mess. The choice to go bad again. I saved her life, but in doing so, I've condemned us both. Fool. Better to have let her die in that garage. Only her eyes had been so green and so sad. I hate myself. I hate that the power pussy might have been right. That the only place for me is jail. That the world would be better off without me. That it's a shame I survived her last powerful assault. When she wakes, the first thing the young woman says is, "Your professor—" I don't let her finish. "Please, don't say that name. I don't like it." Her sentence stutters to a halt, unsaid words tumbling from between her teeth to crash into her lap. She looks down at them, wringing them into the light cotton sheets, and nods. "Ollie," I say. Her face wrinkles up. "Ollie?" "Oliver." The confusion clears, clouds parting, and she flashes a quirky little gap between her two front teeth at me. "Really? Seriously? Oliver?" I resist the urge to bare my own teeth at her. "Yes." "Okay, Ollie. I'm Rachel." Then she peers under the sheet. She cannot possibly see the tight, neat little rows of sutures through the scrubs. Or perhaps she can. Who knows what powers people are being born into nowadays? But she nods as if she approves and says, "Thank you." "I could not let you die." "The prof would have." "I'm Ollie." She nods. "Okay." "Are you thirsty?" I point to a bottle of water on the bedside table. She makes a point of checking the cap before she drinks, but I cannot blame her. Of course, she also does not know that I've ways of poisoning water through plastic, but I won't tell her that. Besides, I haven't done so. "So," she says, "thank you." I snort. I can't help it. It's a horribly ungentlemanly sound. but my disbelief is too profound. "Don't laugh. I mean it," she says. I'm laughing because you mean it. "Rachel," I ask, "how old are you?" She blushes, a crimson flag flapping across a freckled nose, and I curse myself this weakness, this fascination with the human animal that has never managed to ebb, even after all that time in solitary confinement. 23, she says. She is lying. Her eyes shift to the left slightly. She wets her lips. Her breathing increases fractionally. I see it plain as a road sign on a highway. I also saw her ID when I cleaned out her backpack. She is 27. 23, I allow. I was put into prison when you were 8 years old. I did 15 years of a life sentence and was released early on parole for good behavior and a genuine desire to reform. The year prior to my sentencing, I languished in a city cell, and the 2 before that, I spent mostly tucked away completing my very last weapon. Therefore, the last memory you can possibly have of the prof, as you so glibly call him, was from when you were 6. I sit forward. Rachel, my dear, can you really say that at 6 years old, you understood what it meant to have an honest-to-goodness supervillain terrorizing your home? She shakes her head, the blush draining away and leaving those same freckles to stand out against her glowing, pale skin, like ink splattered on vellum. That is why I laughed. It amuses me that I've lived so long that someone like you is saying thank you to me. Ah, and I see another question there. Yes. You don't look old enough, she says softly. I smile and flex a fist. I age very, very slowly. Well, I know that. I just meant, is that part of the, how you were born? No, I say. I did it to myself. Do you regret it? I flop back into my chair, blinking. No one has ever asked me that before. I've never asked myself. I don't know, I admit. Would you? She shrugs and then winces, pressing one palm against her shoulder. Maybe, she admits. I always thought that part of the stories was a bit sad, that the prof has to live forever with what he's done. No, not forever, I demur. Just a very long time. May I ask, what stories? Social science, recent history. I had to do a course on the superhero age in school. I was thinking of specializing in vigilantism. A law student, then? Yes. How urbane. Yes, it sort of is, isn't it? She smiles faintly. What is it about superheroes that attracts us mousy sorts? I could say something uncharitable about ass-hugging spandex and cock cups, but I don't think that would apply to you. Cape bunnies? She asks with a grin. No, definitely not my style. Actually, I absolutely have no desire to know. I stand. I feel weary in a way that has nothing to do with my age. If you are feeling up to it, Rachel, may I interest you in some lunch? Actually, I should go, she says. I feel fantastic. I mean, this is incredible. What you did. I thought I was a goner. You nearly were, I say. And thank you again. But my mom must be freaking out. I should go to a hospital or something. At least call her. Oh, Rachel, I say softly. You've studied supervillains. You know what my answer to that has to be. She is quiet for a moment, and then those brilliant green eyes go wide. "No," she says. "I am sorry. I didn't mean to trade my freedom for yours. I thought I was doing good, for once." But, she stutters. "I can't." She blinks and then curses. "Stupid, I'm not talking about that. I mean, they can't really think that about you, can they? You saved my life. This isn't a bad thing." I laugh again. "Are you defending me? Are you sure that's wise?" "Don't condescend to me," she snaps. "That's not fair. You've done your time. You saved me. Isn't that enough for them?" "Oh, Rachel, you certainly do have a pleasant view of the world." "Don't call me naive." The way she spits it makes me think that she says this quite often. "I'm not," I say. "Only optimistic." I gesture through the door. "The kitchen is there. I will leave the door unlocked. I have a closet through there. Take whatever you'd like. I'm afraid your clothing was too bloody." "Fine," she snarls. I nod once and make my way into the kitchen, closing the door behind me to leave her to her rage and weep in privacy. I know from personal experience how embarrassing it is to realize that your freedom has been forcefully taken from you in public. I built this particular laboratory cum bolt hole in the 1950s, back when the world feared nuclear strikes. I was a different man then, though no less technologically apt, and so it has been outfitted with all manner of tunnels and closets, storage chambers, libraries, and bedrooms. The fridge keeps food fresh indefinitely, so the loaf of bread, basket of tomatoes, and head of lettuce that I left here in 1964 are still fit makings for sandwiches. I also open a can of soup for us to share. She comes out of the recovery room 9,066 seconds, 15.11 minutes, after. A whole 3 minutes longer than I had estimated she would take. There is a stubbornness in her that I had not anticipated, but for which I should have been prepared. She did not die in that garage, and it takes great courage and tenacity to beat off the Grim Reaper. "I'm sorry, Oliver," she says, and she sits in the plastic chair. I suppose the look is called retro now, but this kitchen was once the height of taste. "Why are you apologizing to me?" I set a bowl in front of her. She doesn't even shoot me a suspicious look. I suppose she's decided to take the farce of believing me a good person to its conclusion. "It sucks that you're so sure people are going to hate you." "Aren't they?" She pouts miserably and sips her soup. It's better than the rage I had been expecting, or an escape attempt. I wasn't looking forward to having to chase her down and wrangle her into a straitjacket, or drug her into acquiescence. I would hate to have to dim that keen gaze of hers. I sit down opposite her and point to her textbooks, propped up on my toaster oven for me to read as I stirred the soup. It had been in the bloody backpack I stripped from her, and seemed sanitary enough to save. Her cell phone I destroyed. "This is advanced, Rachel," I say. "Are you enjoying it?" She flicks her eyes to the book. "You've read it?" "Nearly finished. I read fast." "You didn't flip to the end?" "Should I?" "No," she blurts. "No, go at your own pace. I do like it," she said. "Especially the stuff about supervillain reformation." I sigh and set down my spoon. "Oh, Rachel." "I'm serious, Oliver. Just let me make a phone call. I promise no one will arrest you. I won't even tell them that I met you." You won't have to. She slams her fist into the tabletop, the perfect picture of childish frustration. You can't keep me here forever. I can, I say. It's physically possible. What you mean to say is, you don't want to keep me here forever. She goes still. Do you want to? I can. I know I can. I can be like one of those men who kidnaps a young lady and locks her in his basement for 20 years, forcing her to become dependent on him, forcing her to love him. But I don't want to. I've nothing but distaste for men who can't earn love and feel the need to steal it. Cowards. No, I say. Then why are you hesitating? Let me go. Not until you're fully healed, at least, I bargain. I'm not used to bargaining. Giving demands? Yes. But begging? Never. When no trace of what I've done remains, is that acceptable? But in return, you must not try to escape. You could hurt yourself worse. And frankly, I don't want to employ the kind of force that would be required to keep you. That's my deal. You promise? I sneer. I don't break promises. I know, she says. I read about that, too. Okay, it's a deal. I spend the night working on schematics for a memory machine. I've never tampered with the mind of another before. I respect intelligence far too much to go mucking about in someone's gray matter like a child in a tide pool. But I have no other choice. Rachel cannot remember our time together. Rachel sleeps in one of the spare bedrooms. She enjoyed watching old movies all afternoon, and I confess, I enjoyed sitting beside her on the sofa. We had frozen pizza for dinner, and her gaze had spent almost as much time on the screen as on my face. In the morning, my blueprints are ready, and my chemicals begin to simmer on Bunsen burners. I leave the lab and find her at the kitchen table, drinking coffee and flipping through my scrapbook. It's filled with newspaper articles and photos, wanted posters and DVDs of news broadcasts. I've never thought to keep it in a safe or to put it away somewhere because, besides Miss Rachel, no one has ever been to this bolt hole but me. You found the soy milk, I see, I say. She nods and doesn't look up from her intense perusal of a favorite article of mine, the only one where the reporter got it. And my book. It's like a shrine, she says. I thought you'd hate all these superheroes, but there's just as much in here about them as you. I have a great respect for anyone who wants to better the world. I touch the side of the coffee pot, still warm. I pour myself a cup and sit across from her. See, that's what's freaking me out a bit, she says. You're such a... What? You seem like such a sweet guy. I laugh again. What? Don't mistake my youth for sweetness. I'm not, but I don't know. You're not a supervillain. I'm not a superhero either. You can be something in the middle. You can just be a nice guy. I've never been just a nice guy, Rachel. Not even before. I think you're being one now. She leans across the table and kisses me. I don't close my eyes or move my mouth. This is a surprise too, but an acceptable one. When she sits back, I ask, Is this why you were studying my face so intently last night while you pretended to watch movies? She blushes again, and it's fascinating. Shut up, she mumbles. I smile. Are you a cape bunny after all, Miss Rachel? A lab coat bunny, maybe, she says. I've always gone for brain over brawn. Who are you lashing out against? I ask calmly, my tone probably just this side of too cool. That you think kissing the man who has kidnapped you is a good idea. Rachel drops back down into her seat. Way to ruin the moment, Romeo. That's not an answer. No one. And that, my dear Rachel, is a lie. She throws up her hands. I don't know, okay? My mother, the school, the courts, the whole stupid system. A big stupid world that says the man who saved my life has to go to jail for it. I am part of the revenge scheme then, I say. If you come out of your captivity loving your captor, then they cannot possibly think I am evil. You have it all planned out, my personal redemption. Or perhaps this is a way to earn a seat in that big-ticket law school? She stares at me, slack-jawed, a storm brewing behind those beautiful green eyes. You're a bit of a dick, you know that? That is what the Crimson Cunt used to. Don't call her that! Why not? The super slut won't hear me say it. Not under all this concrete. Shut up! Why? I sneer. Protecting a heroine you've never met? She deserves better, even from you. Oh, have I ruined your image of me, Rachel? Am I not sweet and misunderstood anymore? You still shouldn't. What? Hate her? She put me in jail. I copy her and slam my fist onto the tabletop. My mug topples, hot liquid splashing out between us. I think I have a right to be bitter about that. But it was for the good. It made you better. No, it made me a coward. I've lost all my ambition, dear Rachel, and that is why I am just a normal citizen. I am too tired. But, Divine, don't say her name either. Rachel stands and pounds her fist onto the table again, shaking my fallen mug, and I stand as well, too furious to want to be shorter than her. Asshole, she snarls. And she was the ball-breaker on a power trip. She was no better for the city than I. The only difference was that she didn't have the gumption, the ambition, the foresight to do what had to be done. I was the only one who saw. Me. She towed the line. She kept the status quo. I was trying to change the world. She was just a stupid blonde bimbo with huge tits and a small brain. Don't talk about my mother that way. Oh. I drop back into my seat, knees giving way without my say-so. Well, this is a turn, I admit. Everyone knows, she spits. It's hard to miss. Same eyes, same cheekbones. I've never seen your mother's eyes and cheekbones. What, were you living under a rock when she unmasked? I smile. It's thin and bitter. I was in solitary confinement for 5 years. By the time I got out, it must have been old news, and I had no stomach to look up my old nemesis. Rachel looks away, and her eyes are bright with tears that don't skitter down her cheeks. I wonder if they are for her mother or for herself, or because I've said such terrible things and her opinion of me has diminished. They are certainly not because she pities me. Nobody pities me. I got, as I am quite often reminded, exactly what I deserved. What does your mother do now? I ask, after the silence has become unbearable. There is nothing to count or calculate in the silence, besides the precise, quiet click of the second hand ticking ever onward, while I'm left behind. Socialite, Rachel says. Cars, money, married a real estate developer. Is he your father? She swings her gaze back up to me, sharp. Why would you ask that? Why does the notion that he might not be offend you? Her lips pucker, and with that scowl, I can see it. The pissy frown, the stubborn thrust of her chin. There is the fantastic floozy, hating me through her daughter. It doesn't, she lies. She twists her hands in front of her again. Fine, it does. I don't know, okay? I don't think she knows. She wants it to be him. So do you, I press, because that would make you normal. She looks up at me briskly. Please, Rachel, I say. I am quite clever. Don't insult us both by forgetting. The way you do your hair, your clothes, the law school ambitions. It all screams, I don't want to be like my mother. Which, if your mother is a superheroine, probably means that you are also desperate to not be one of us. I'm not, she whispers. I dare say that if you have no desire to, then you won't be. I agree. I lean forward to impart my great secret. She's the first I've told, and I don't know why I'm sharing it. Only, perhaps, that it will make her less miserable. Here is something they never tell anyone. If you don't use your powers, if you don't flex that extra little muscle in your gray, squishy brain, it will not develop. It will atrophy and die. Why do you think there are so few of us now? Nobody wants to be a hero. Really? She whispers, odd hatred draining from her face. Really, I say. Especially after the sort of example your mother set. Rachel rocks back again, the furious line between her eyebrows returning. And yes, I recognize that, too. Have seen that above a red domino mask before. Why do you say things like that? She asks, hands thrown skyward at exasperation. She winces. Don't rip your stitches, my dear, I admonish. Don't change the subject. You wouldn't talk about the Chameleon Kid that way, or Wild West, or any of them. You'd have respect. What about the Tesla? You respect him. I've seen the pictures on your wall, and you... Why are you laughing? And I am laughing. I am guffawing like the body-brawling youth I resemble. Because I am the Tesla. She rocks back on her heels, eyes comically wide, and then suspiciously narrow. But you, Prof, killed the Tesla. In a sense, he did. Her eyes jump between me and the door to my lab, the only door locked to Rachel, and back to me. You were a hero first. Yes. And it didn't work, did it? No. Because people don't want to change, don't want to think. Yes, my plans would have been good for society, would have forced changes for the better, but people just want a hero to keep things the way they already are. She looks at her law textbook, which rests exactly where I had left it the night before, propped on the toaster oven. So, you made it look like the Tesla was dead. Heroes can save the world, but villains can change it, Rachel. She looks up. I think I want to hate you, Ollie, but I can't figure out if I should. It's okay if you hate me, I say. I won't mind. Yes, I think you would, she says. She flattens her right palm over her left shoulder. We sit like that for a long moment, forgetting to count the seconds. Time flies when I am around Rachel, and I find that I am beginning to enjoy it. J.M. Frey is an award-winning sci-fi and fantasy author and professional smarty pants on AMI Audio's daily morning show live from Studio 5. She speaks in podcasts, documentaries, and on television, focused on all things geeky via academia. You can find her at www.jmfry.net or on Twitter at Sci-Frey. Hey guys, so I was finally able to get J.M. Frey on the channel. We had some plans for another story earlier on, but some issues arose and we had to rethink the project in mind. But I am super excited to share this story with you guys. Part 2 will be airing this Monday, so be sure to check back soon. As always, subscribe for more sci-fi and fantasy. I'm Chris Herron, and that's it for today's Tall Tale TV.